This Armageddon box sucks, seriously, it looks like Games Workshop is trying to clear all stock before the actual cool releases. Here in Spain you can get 6 Deffkoptas from the Combat Patrol magazine for 44 euros. And even in other countries these things are flooding the second-hand market because many people got them from the Combat Patrol boxes. Meanwhile this box cost 135 euros, which means you're basically paying 90 euros for these two vehicles not many people cared about anyways. So yeah, I decided to buy Deffkoptas separately and skip this box completely. So today we are painting 6 of them for my army. So here are the 6 Deffkoptas fully built, based and primed. Let's start painting. I begin by airbrushing a dark brown over the entire miniature. This is going to help create the overall atmosphere of the model, work as a shadow color for basically everything, and most importantly, it's the perfect base for all the rusty metallics later. For the bases, I added a little bit of red into the same brown mix, so they match the rest of my army. I also sprayed that reddish tone onto the Ork Skin because I thought it would contrast nicely with the green later. I want most of the armor plates on these Deffkoptas to be yellow, so I used the airbrush to spray yellow over all the panels. I tried to avoid overspray as much as possible, but honestly, with these many models, some cleanup is inevitable. The yellow took a while and still wasn't saturated enough, but it is going to work as a nice first layer. So now I'm going back with a brush using the same yellow paint to really push the color. And yeah, as you can see, the brushstrokes are very visible and the coverage isn't perfectly smooth. Honestly, painting yellow is horrible. I've been painting this army for months now and still haven't found a yellow process that I truly like. But thankfully we are doing heavy weathering later, so I really don't care if the finish isn't perfect. Most of these ugly brushstrokes will disappear under scratches, grime and rust anyway. Now I'm using the original dark brown to clean all the overspray caused by the airbrush. And after that I painted the rockets on the front, using a darker red for the shadows and a super saturated red on the upper areas. Because these are two identical units, every Deffkopta is duplicated, so I wanted to make them a little bit different visually. The first unit is going to get hazard stripes. Using the yellow base coat, I carefully paint black diagonal lines over the armor plates. It is actually a bit tricky because all the surfaces are curved differently across the 3 models. For the second unit, I decided to go with checkered patterns instead. I wanted them black and white, which honestly makes painting the whole area yellow first a little bit stupid, but it's fine. I started by painting the black squares directly over the yellow, and then filled the remaining spaces with white while correcting the edges little by little. For some reason, painting hazard stripes and checkered patterns has become one of my favorite parts of the entire Ork army process, alongside painting Ork Skin obviously, although in this case there isn't that much skin anyway. Freehands done, it's finally time for the weathering. I used the same dark brown for the beginning, together with a sponge to create random scratches, chips and stains all over the yellow armor plates. This immediately creates the feeling of worn paint, dirt and battle damage. I also use it over the checkered patterns, although more carefully so I don't completely destroy them. This step generally does 90% of the work in about 3 minutes. I really have been looking forward to the freehands and the weathering since the beginning. The models suddenly feel alive. Then I applied this brown wash over all the same surfaces to create dirt streaks, extra shadows and more grime. If you are enjoying the video and want to see more of the new orks coming soon, please subscribe to the channel. And that's basically the weathering done. Very fast, very simple, but super effective. And this is how the Deffkoptas are looking right now. At this point, most of the hard work is already finished. We only have the Ork Skin, rusty metals and a few extra details left. Honestly, the more I paint these Deffkoptas, the less this box makes sense to me, because these are clearly the coolest part of the box, and I got them from a fraction of the price. For the skin, I'm using the exact same recipe I've been using across the rest of my army. I used the reddish brown underpainting as a shadow color, and I applied this green as a mid-tone, leaving only the deepest recesses untouched. After that, I used this lime green as my first highlight to start defining the muscles and faces of these orks. finally I mix some yellow into the lime green for the brightest highlights. Normally I spend a lot of time painting Ork Skin because it's one of the most important parts of the army for me. But in this case these are vehicles, the real focus should be in the yellow armor, the freehands and the weathering. So even though I'm using the same recipe, I'm not being super careful with the highlights. I want this done fast. With the skin finished, I quickly painted the clothes using browns, reds and off-whites. I tried to vary the colors a little bit so the two squads wouldn't feel like complete clones of each other. Then I quickly painted some extra details, including the ones on the bases like bits of hoods and skulls. Now you might have noticed that I left all the metallic areas unpainted until now. That is because I'm going to create an extremely rusty look using these two dry pigments. After applying them over all the metallic areas, I also added some rust pigments on the edges of the yellow armor panels to tie everything together. And I used this sienna pigment over all the bases to match the rest of my army. After letting the pigments dry for a few hours, I used a dry brush with Lil Belcher over all the metallic areas, leaving some of the rust visible underneath. Then I used a lighter metallic on the upward facing areas. And finally I added some edge highlights onto all the yellow armor plates. Honestly, I'm super happy with how these Deffkoptas turned out, and after painting them I think I disliked the Armageddon box even more. At this point I still don't know if this army is becoming full Speed Freeks or not, but after painting Wasdaka and now these Deffkoptas, the vehicle addiction is getting even worse. If you liked this video, check this one right here where I painted Wasdaka. Probably the best orc I've painted so far. Thanks and see you in the next one.